Women that are struggling with all kinds of health issues are being told every single day that their symptoms are normal. We're talking about fatigue, weight gain, mood swings, and hormone issues that are often dismissed as part of aging, or something that they simply have to live with. But what if that's not the full picture? What if those symptoms aren't problems to ignore, but signals to understand? What if the issue isn't a lack of solutions, but a lack of the right ones? Today we're digging into what's really driving women's health challenges and exploring natural approaches that support the body, not fight against it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Life TV Now, where we unpack all matters of truth, faith, and freedom. I'm your host, Joe Artis Horn. Today's program is an absolute powder keg of information that I think is going to help some of you ladies in particular with a whole new path toward healing as a divine appointment from God the Father himself. Before we dive in, let me introduce our special guests. She's an integrative nutrition health coach with a Master of Science in Health Education. Please welcome our executive producer, Jamie Woodle. And she's a traditional naturopath with a doctorate in holistic nutrition and is the CEO of Main Street Wellness Center and her supplement line MediBlend. For over 30 years, it has been her passion to use cutting-edge technology and advanced lab testing to empower clients to make informed decisions and guide them to achieve optimal well-being. Please welcome our special guest, Dr. Hines. This is going to be revelation, I promise. Stay with us, especially you ladies out there. This could be life-changing. But before we get started, we want to take a minute to honor our mothers. As we approach Mother's Day, over at Eden's Essentials, we're taking a moment to recognize the strength it takes to care for others every single day, and that kind of strength requires support. Our curcumin formula is designed to help maintain a healthy inflammatory response and overall wellness so you can stay consistent and strong where it matters most. Right now, take 10% off your next purchase of Eden's Essentials Curcumin by using the promo code MOM10. If you missed last week's program, go back to the archives wherever it is that you watch Life TV Now. Maybe that's Rumble, maybe that's YouTube, maybe that's Roku. Maybe that's PTL. Dr. Hines was with us last week, and we talked about metabolism. We talked a little bit about what you do in your practice, what a patient might experience coming to see somebody like you, the possibility of being able to do a Zoom call with you through your practice. So if you missed it, go back because it's loaded with information. And of course, before the program ends today, we'll make sure that we once again get your websites so that if somebody wants to learn more about how to get a hold of you or see you in your practice, they can do that. We talked about the difference between the words being packaged as traditional medicine or conventional medicine. And I do air quotes because the people in this room know that when I say that, what I mean is ancient herbal medicine. But over the last 100 years, we've seen this total rearranging of the way health is done in Western culture in particular, towards more of a pharmaceutical model where everything's being treated with prescription drugs and underlying root causes, as you would, of course, assert along with me, and of course, Jamie Woodle, being health advocates, is to ignore the underlying root cause. So if you missed it last week, go back. We had Dr. Hines on the program. She was an absolute brilliant savant at litigating a lot of what the dilemma is and the differences between homeopathic medicine, naturopathic medicine, allopathic medicine. It's a great episode if you're unfamiliar. Today I want to hit the ground running and I want to zero in really specifically on women's health. And I don't know exactly where you want to start on this, but I will start with weight loss gimmicks. And I know that you could do probably 3 hours on just GLP-1. And a lot of these women that are being told, look, weight can be managed with these medicinal interventions. And in fact, the risks of obesity that lead to heart disease and also type 2 diabetes, those risks are much higher than maybe some of the disclaimed side effects of some of these medications. Of course, we talked a little bit last week about what is not being addressed is maybe what's being eaten, maybe what diet looks like. Why is a person struggling in the first place with, glucose imbalances or insulin spiking throughout the day? These are things that are not really addressed in generally at all effectively from a medicinal, holistic lifestyle or dietary discipline issue. What are the trends that you're seeing right now that have you the most alarmed about women, their pursuit for that perfect figure that, Hollywood has totally obliterated and has set these ceilings for what people think is beautiful? And it's being done in vain, and these poor women have esteem issues, and they're looking for that cookie cutter model so that they can be affirmed. What are some of the trends? Does it have to do with weight? Is it hormonal imbalances that are just being wrecked even further by these medicinal interventions?
That's a big topic, and it's one that's very near and dear to my heart. I get women that come in and they are discouraged and they are depressed because they can't lose weight, and they've gone to see doctors, and the doctors say, well, you'd be healthier if you'd lose weight. But the thing is, they can't lose weight, and it's not about calories in, calories out for almost all of these women. They go to see these doctors, they tell them you need to lose weight so you can be healthier, but not understanding that weight gain or obesity is a symptom of underlying problems. I will just say that I don't think I've had a single patient who I felt that their weight gain was because of what they were eating as far as calories in, calories out. Talking about the quality of their food, yes, but as far as calories in, calories out, that is such an outdated mode. And it's very discouraging to women because, let me give you an example. I had a woman who came in and one of her goals was weight loss. And so as I typically do, I say, what do you typically eat in a day? Just give me an idea of breakfast, lunch, and dinner. What do you eat? And she said, I can tell you exactly what I eat because I've eaten exactly the same thing for 2 years. It's 1,000 calories, and I haven't lost a pound.
Wow.
And I said, you're not going to like what I have to say. I said, you're going to have to eat more.
Yep.
And I said, you've got to eat more because your body needs to heal. When your metabolism heals, your weight will level back out. She had the courage to listen to me. She gained 15 pounds over the months that we were working together, and she was terrified, but she hung in there, and she did lose that and more once her body was able to heal.
Quality of food is so important, but you're right. The idea of starvation diets and running on a cardio treadmill. I don't know why, but you still see these in social media, workout diets and stuff. And we do need movement, and you should build muscle. Time under tension. There's certain workout methodologies I'm a huge fan of. But as far as weight loss, I see a diabolical future moment coming with a lot of these gimmicks that people are subscribing to through these medicinal interventions that are going to lead to all kinds of pancreatic dysfunction, malevolent disease because their body was out of balance. And yet, even when you read a lot of or ask your doctor about a lot of the side effects with some of these medications that just artificially make you thinner, they'll still say, yes, these are side effects. So like maybe blindness. But they'll say, but the risks of type 2 diabetes and obesity because of what the impact to the heart looks like, et cetera, et cetera. And so they rationalize. But my whole question in the first place is, why are we talking about mitigating disease in the first place when there could be a path to actual healing? And like you said, eating in a certain way, she had the courage to follow your input, and then she ended up losing more. So I don't know if you want to get into this. Can you give us just a snapshot for the people that might be watching this program that would say, give me just 3 bullet points that resemble that eating structure? And of course, this is not maybe tailored specifically for you, but what did hers look like? Was it generally increased protein, decreased carbs? What did that look like?
That's a great question. First, let me say that let's think about the model that we've all been taught for so long about calories in, calories out. If you want to lose weight, you cut calories and you exercise more, right?
That's right.
But let's think about that from the body's perspective. From a physiological perspective, what is that doing to the body? When you cut calories, what else are you cutting? Nutrients. That's the body's fuel, right? And then you increased its workload. So you took away fuel and increased its workload. How's that going to work? The body is going to go into stress mode, survival mode, and you're going to be fighting yourself. So if you're starving yourself and beating yourself up in the gym to lose weight, the minute you stop doing that, guess what's going to happen?
Boom.
Right, and that's what we see over and over and over with women.
That's right.
So some basic tenets for just anyone in general are, I encourage eating 3 meals a day. Intermittent fasting is so popular right now, and I spend a lot of time every week debunking this because let's be honest, intermittent fasting has become an excuse to skip breakfast, drink more coffee, and what are you running on? You're running on fumes and stress hormones. And that is backfiring on you. So yes, your calories are less, but you are starving your body of nutrition it needs to keep itself healthy. There is an end point there. You are causing damage to your body. So one basic tenet is I encourage people to eat 3 meals a day, and that needs to start with protein. Every meal needs to have protein. Don't worry so much about restricting this or that, but just focus on, are you getting protein 3 times a day with some carbs and some fat? Just very reasonable, very simple. Other tenets are, how's your sleep? Your body is healing and recovering at night. You need to sleep like it's your job. Someone once said that to me, and I thought that was such a good saying. Make sleep very important. Another thing, people think that they're sleeping well. If they fall asleep and they don't wake up until the morning, they think they've had a good night's sleep. But how many people joke about snoring? It's something we joke about in this society, but it's actually a very bad sign. If you have sleep apnea, even mild sleep apnea, which is maybe 6 to 8 events per hour, every time your airway collapses, your system spikes stress hormones to wake you up so you'll breathe. If you're spiking stress hormones 6 to 8 times per hour all night long, how much actual rest and recovery are you getting, right? So take those clues seriously. If you're snoring, get it checked out. So eating 3 meals, getting good sleep, and then just some basic movement. You don't have to beat yourself up in the gym necessarily. In fact, I get a lot of people who come in and say, I do CrossFit 5 days a week and I just can't get rid of this belly fat. I run their DNA and find out they're not built for strenuous exercise. That's not what their body is geared for. They scale back and effortlessly that last little bit of weight drops off because they're not stressing their body out with the over-exercising. But fresh air and sunshine and putting your feet on the ground are actual really important things that our body needs. The sunshine is a nutrient to us. Fresh air, clean water, some of those basics. Start with that.
I'm a huge fan of spiritual fasting. You know, God has commanded us to make those sacrifices in order to be healed or in order to receive downloads, spiritual inspiration that would maybe guide you through a difficult decision. But I love your example of intermittent fasting becoming an excuse to skip breakfast and then drink coffee. You're right about that. That is absolutely one of the things that we're seeing prevail now, and it's not helping the body at all. What have you seen in your life that created this passion in the first place? What experience? Why are you sitting here today with a passion to help women? This didn't just happen one day. There was certain events. There was something took place, right?
Yes, yes. My own personal journey with hormones and many, many stories of women coming in frustrated, getting mixed information on hormones. Hormones are becoming a hot topic again. There are clinics popping up all over the place where you can go in and you can get exogenous, bioidentical hormone therapy. And there is a difference between bioidentical, that's BHRT, and pharmaceutical hormone replacement therapy. Those are very different. However, even if you're getting bioidentical hormones, that is not in and of itself alone a solution if you do not fix the upstream and downstream physiology that supports that. So I often see, again, let me give a story because that's the easiest way. I had a woman come in and she was 39 years old. She had been on hormone replacement, natural bioidentical hormone replacement since age 30. Let me just say that cycling women, that should not be our first attempt. We should first fix their own physiology, not just jump to hormones, because when you give exogenous hormones, their own body's production is going to slow down. So she'd been on exogenous hormones and still didn't feel well. All the symptoms that she had leading up to that, and since then, she still didn't feel good. At 37, they added thyroid therapy. Again, natural thyroid therapy, but again, clearly things aren't working right. So after working with her a little while, I said, I think we need to try to come off the hormones because clearly they're not helping your body. You've been on them almost 10 years. She agreed, and we slowly weaned her off. Now, when we got done, her numbers were lower, but she felt amazing. Incidentally, a few months later, she got pregnant with twins.
Wow.
She's felt so much better. She hasn't been back to see me in a while because she's all better.
She met the goal then.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
One of the things that I've seen a lot of practitioners kind of racing toward now is testosterone for women. And that's for a lot of the people maybe watching this program, like, wait a minute, did you just say testosterone for women? What are your thoughts about that, and what role do you think it actually plays?
I would say that testosterone is one of the most misunderstood topics in women's health. Testosterone is just as important for women as it is for men. Just because we don't need as much doesn't make it less important. Another misconception is that testosterone, when you give it to women, it's a master hormone. Much of that will turn into estrogen. The body will determine that. Testosterone can be broken down into estrogen. So a lot of times women are getting estrogen maybe they'll get bioidentical estrogen, but they're ignoring progesterone and testosterone. Testosterone is critical for women for recovery, for muscle mass, for drive, for motivation. Progesterone is often thought of as only needed for pregnancy, but postmenopausal women still need progesterone. They can't sleep. They have anxiety. Progesterone will make that better.
Are you ladies hearing this?
Yeah.
I know so many that are living out exactly what you're describing here. I would love for you to tell people, if you're watching this program at home and you're thinking, man, I would love to be able to talk to Dr. Hines myself. You have an infrastructure. I've seen your clinic. It's a beautiful facility. Wonderful staff, very brightly lit, just a beautiful place. And you're building on because of the demand. It's a growing endeavor. You also do, though, remote and Zoom. So just let's pause in the middle of the show. Let's drop the website. If you want to learn more about Dr. Hines, tell us where we can do that.
Sure. You can go to mainstreetwellnesscenter.com and find information about our clinic. We're located in Willow Springs, Missouri. You can come see me in person, or you can do it over Zoom. You can look us up on the web, mainstreetwellnesscenter.com. We're located in Willow Springs, Missouri. You can come in person, or we can do an appointment over Zoom. You can book appointments on the website. You can call or text our number, and you can see what services are provided on that website.
Hormones is very interesting to me because in my health journey, I was at one time put on bioidentical progesterone for insomnia, anxiety, and I had a terrible reaction. And I've only spoke to one other person who had the same reaction. It actually affected my nervous system. I had worse anxiety and the jitters even, and the withdrawal when I came off of that. And I only took it for 2 or 3 weeks. It was horrendous. And then I saw another holistic clinic, and there was a nurse practitioner who really wanted to put me on some kind of a testosterone. After the progesterone issue, I was very leery of that, and I started to look into natural ways to boost hormones. But I'm really interested on your thoughts about estrogen. That's the big one. I know a lot of women who are taking estrogen right now.
Yes, and there's a lot of fear around estrogen. And let me just say that your experience highlights the need for proper testing and looking at upstream and downstream effects and how your body's going to handle that hormone. It is almost never the best approach to just throw hormones at it. And that is what's happening in a lot of these clinics. And honestly, a lot of times it works. But that's if there aren't any bottlenecks anywhere else.
Sure.
But for the women where there are bottlenecks, it can just make things much worse. Yeah. Now, estrogen is a little different than testosterone and progesterone because testosterone and progesterone can both be broken down into other hormones. When you look at a hormone cascade chart, estrogen doesn't break down into anything else. And that's part of the reason it can become dangerous. A lot of women are afraid of estrogen because of estrogen-based cancers or hormone-based cancers. But one thing I think it's very important to understand is that there is a difference between your body's own production of estrogen and xenoestrogens. Xeno means foreign. So foreign estrogens are things in our environment that mimic estrogen enough. So you have an estrogen molecule that will sit in an estrogen receptor. But if it's a xenohormone and that sits in that receptor, what messages is it giving? Because hormones are messengers in the body. Well, they're not giving the right messages. That's where we get into trouble. An example is I had an elderly woman come in who had previously had a hormone-based cancer. She'd been on letrozole, which is a common drug that is an estrogen blocker. She'd been on this drug for years and years. Her bones were crumbling, and she was facing bilateral knee replacement after already having had other replacements. And she was terrified of her own estrogen, which she really didn't have any on the testing. But she was so scared of it. But we need to understand the difference between natural estrogen your body makes and xenoestrogens. Also, we need to understand the importance of estrogen in laying down bone. That was a great contributor to her bone loss, was you must have estrogen in order to lay down bone. So estrogen is a very important hormone when used correctly. One really common use of it, I get a lot of postmenopausal women who have recurrent urinary tract infections. They go on round after round of antibiotics, and yet they continue to get urinary tract infections. Sometimes topical estrogen cream is a miracle for them. I had a woman come who had been to see several doctors. Her story is not unique, unfortunately. Many of them had written her a prescription for an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety drug instead of addressing her real and very painful issues. She had extreme vaginal dryness and that caused her daily pain. So she came and she did have recurrent UTIs and she did have that very tender skin there. One of the things I gave her was some topical estrogen. She called me 3 days later in happy tears and she said, do you know how many doctors I've seen, how many OB-GYNs I've seen? Why did no one suggest this to me before? She decided she was going to call all of them. Ask them why. But sometimes it is a miracle for something like that. And that topical application is very safe. It does not really get into the bloodstream very much. So sometimes an application like that can make a huge difference.
And there's a lot of people that don't know about, bisphenol A, phthalates, the xenoestrogens. You keep saying xenoestrogens. They're in shampoo products. They're on, just surfaces and the things you drink out of and the products that we're constantly, putting on our body. The pragmatic testing that you do through your clinic really zeroes in on what a person's need looks like, both up and downstream. I love that you keep quantifying that because you're right. I've seen too much of this, hey, they're low on that, put it in there. And then the person becomes the experiment. Sometimes they feel better. Sometimes they feel better for a while and then they crash because there's no sustainable up and downstream strategy in place for that person. We're almost out of time, Dr. Hines. I just want to ask you, for the women watching this program who might be at their wits' end and maybe now are a little encouraged because they're going to email your clinic or they're going to follow up with you, is there hope for those women in finding natural solutions that are truly effective and lasting, even if things have been spoken over them? Like, it's just, we get to the genetic end of these things, and for some of us, it's time to just kind of accept that this is reality, honey. Go home, pumpkin, pat on the head. Is there hope for these people?
Absolutely. And I never accept that answer. I never accept that you're just going to have to live with it. That is not an option in my clinic.
It's one of the reasons you're so tired all the time because I know. Because we have mutual friends that have said Dr. Hines works like way too hard for her patients. She's obsessed over the weekends. She's doing research on a Sunday evening. She never stops working for her patients. But I find it totally commendable.
I will work absolutely as hard as my patient will. I will meet them where they are, and we will work together to get them well, no matter where they are. So we start there. What you mentioned about xenohormones, let me clarify what those are so people know.
Sure.
Xeno means foreign. So those foreign estrogens are in chemicals. They're in plastics. They're in all your favorite lotions that smell good. Unless they're natural, look for something that says it's natural. Those soy candles that are scented with essential oils, those are much safer. Those plug-ins, many of your cosmetics, shampoos, check them and just slowly convert them over to something that has more natural ingredients in it, and you'll be safer. You need a comprehensive approach. You can't just throw things at it and hope that it's going to get better. So you need to find a practitioner who's going to do the homework of looking at your whole physiology and laying out a strategy that works for you personally.
If you're watching this program out there today and you're thinking, they've talked a lot about contacting a clinic, they've talked a lot about hormone testing, I'm not sure I'm ready for all that. Is there something I can do fundamentally across the board, men and women, fundamentally, to kind of hit some of the big spots that a lot of people are just not getting in their diet for lack of nutrition? What we're pulling out of the ground, even when it's organic, is often, void of the stuff that you would have got in just normal food 35 years ago. There's this thing I've heard you referred to as the core four that you fundamentally will start a lot of your patients on. It's the 4 core things that you'll find out while you're waiting on test results are usually completely depleted on. What are the core 4?
Yes. So the core 4 are 4 supplements I think everyone could benefit from. I don't have to know anything specific about your case to say these are things generally we all need to supplement with, like you said, because you cannot get it from your food anymore. The first is a multivitamin. Look for one that has methylated Bs, good fat-soluble vitamins, and trace minerals in it. And then separately, you need calcium and magnesium. We need a large amount of calcium and magnesium, and they are a large molecule, so there's too much to fit into a multi, so that needs to be in a separate capsule. The third thing is fish oil. Get a good quality fish oil. You cannot get enough in your diet, and it is very anti-inflammatory, very important for the heart, for the brain, for hormone signaling. And the fourth thing is something to assist the liver. We all know we live in a toxic world and that most of our livers are struggling to keep up with the burden already. A nice herbal blend that assists your liver is absolutely essential today. If you start with those things and some basic dietary guidelines like eating 3 meals a day, that make sure that you include protein in each meal, work on your sleep, get some fresh air, get some movement, some of these basics and those core 4, you're off to a good start. I would start you on those things before I gave you any hormones anyway. Even if they were low on labs, we have to do those foundational things or the hormones aren't just going to get clogged in a system that isn't functioning already.
And I would just say that we have many of those things at Eden's Essentials, but if you would prefer, go directly to Dr. Hines' website. We'll put it up again on the screen, and you want to interface with her as a physician or maybe set up a Zoom call or go see her in person. She also offers her own MediBlend. These are masterfully blended supplements. They're going to work at the cellular level to work very quickly. And I'm not jealous. We, as a team, want you better, and I don't care where you get that help. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Dr. Hines, I know we're almost out of time, but there's a really big topic I'd love your insight on, and that is keto. It's everywhere. Women are constantly being told keto, carnivore. What are your thoughts on that?
I love that diet, and I used to do it myself very intensely, and I felt amazing while I was doing it. But I drove myself into early menopause doing it. Part of the reason I felt so good is that I was running on stress hormones, and that drives your sex hormones down. So I ran myself into early menopause and felt great while I was doing it. So this just highlights the need to get with someone that can look at your physiology and give you a comprehensive plan, because there is a time and a place for keto. It's not all bad. Keto is a wonderful diet. There's a lot of misunderstandings about what keto actually is. That's also a big topic we could have a whole nother show on, I suppose. But all of these diets that are very extreme, they eliminate an entire macronutrient or they're very extreme in any way, are never for long term. Let me just say that they're never for long term or lifestyle usage. They are utilized sometimes for a period of time to achieve a certain effect, but they're not a lifestyle.
Right. I've heard the same thing about carnivore. Felt great for 6 months, tore my gut completely apart, and ended up with leaky gut syndrome and then had to start the repair work. How many of you absolutely love Dr. Ann Hines? We will have to have you back on the program in future installations. Unfortunately, we're all out of time. Ladies and gentlemen, for everybody here in studio, Dr. Hines, Jamie, thank you so much for being back with us right here at Life TV Now once again this week. Keep your eyes on the prize, which is Jesus Christ. We'll be back.